We've been infected by the modern legal tradition, and especially by shows that play up the modern legal tradition, in that we expect that court cases will arrive at the truth through forensic evidence, through testimonies or dramatic revelations, or at least that if you play on them properly, they could arrive at the truth. But this neglects a truth about historical court cases and a great potential for roleplay, and that is that most of the methods that are traditionally available for old-fashioned court cases were almost completely useless. We know how bad eyewitness testimony is nowadays, and the old-fashioned courts were full of wild religious beliefs and everyday superstitions and lacked any of the forensic methods and other types of evidence that we had today. So you take unreliable eyewitness testimony and you layer on superstition, and you basically have an environment that, okay, maybe it's slightly better at coming to the truth than throwing darts, but isn't far off, and where social skills, dominance, connections, eloquence, knowledge of the intricacies of the rules and how to argue and stuff like that could really make a difference, whereas actual guilt and innocence were far less important than these factors. And I know you sometimes play it, but it's generally sort of, there's an unfair court case against a player by some rich guy or powerful guy, and you have to expose his inequity or depose him or whatever. But I think there's a lot of potential in role-playing in the actual trial, where the skill is not to reveal the truth, the skill is to manipulate the system better than your opponents are. And there's a lot of things you can build on that: building influence, finding evidence, making up evidence, finding obscure laws, making up obscure laws if you need to, getting one of the churches on your side, throwing huge banquets and inviting half the village to it, that kind of thing. So a battle for influence. And yes, within a sort of formal setting of what is nominally a trial. So I think that by omitting this potential, we're leaving a lot of potential stories aside, and an unfair court case could be tossed into many adventures. Maybe not as an overriding theme, but as something that'll fine one of the adventurers a lot, unless they find a way of playing the system. So things that in general encourage you to play the system, I think the social system should be encouraged, because it tends to be sort of too didactic, good versus evil, and there should be a lot more of your opponents are acting against you on a political scene, and instead of blocking them and overthrowing them or losing and dying or whatever, you just have to make it too expensive for them to go on, so that your enemies stay in place, but maybe they're slightly less your enemies because you're too powerful to take down, so they will smile at the end of the case and congratulate you and go home and lick their wounds. Anyway, just a brief random note to say that old-fashioned, inefficient justice is a great potential for stories. Thanks.